This is the Real Footy podcast. Thanks for joining us to tip round 20. My name's Peter Ryan, and today I've got a very special guest for listeners. We've got the leader, the clubhouse leader, Michael Gleeson. Glees, good to have you on board.
Well, let's go to the pointy end of the season, so it's time for, getting serious. Tactical sub, getting wee out.
Yeah, exactly right.
Whether it's tactical or just, obvious.
Yeah, it was probably
I didn't know whether I was welcome here. You've been sledging me half the season.
Well, you're not welcome because you're on top, but I think the listeners will like you.
Well, I'll leave now then.
No, you're part of the team. You're the leading tipster. You're on 113 tips, which is a good effort. One ahead of me, who I'm on 112, and then we've got Kellen Jaspin and Mark McGowan. So it's a top two. It's a Quinella today. We should get the card given that.
Well,
Glees.
It could be a very short podcast because these are. You run through these games, you go,
I know.
This is the round that you should get 9.
It's like the first round of a tennis tournament, isn't it? Where you just think...
I've not played a lot of tennis, but...
No, you know what I mean.
I've covered a lot, yeah.
All the top seeds are playing the bottom seeds, which has happened for a few weeks. We'll get straight into it. Thursday night comes around quickly every week now. Hawthorn, Carlton, Ben Mackay might be back. Sorry, Harry Mackay might be back for the Blues.
It's just good to see the Blues back on a Thursday or Friday night, really, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
I've been missing them in prime time.
No, they're a good team for a prime time. It means you can actually get some jobs done around the house because you can turn it off at half time.
But catching up on those Mr. In-Between episodes.
We should be more enthusiastic about the game. And this, it's a critical one for Hawthorn, and the big in for Hawthorn is Will Day. Can you make a case, Glees, for the Blues upsetting the Hawks?
No, and no one can because if you want to try and make a case, they're coming off a one-game winning streak over Melbourne.
Yeah.
They've got Mackay back, which means they should, you would think, put Tom De Koning back into the ruck.
That would be sensible.
Well, it would have been sensible to have him there throughout, but they haven't displayed a lot of sensible behaviour in that regard.
No.
Took a cracking mark last week at the end, which was
won
good.
them the game in some
won
respects.
Won them the game.
Yep.
So they've also going into this game though with the spectre of Charlie Curnow saying, "I really don't want to be here anymore. We're somewhere with a beach."
Yeah, I think he's sick of playing on Thursday nights. He's sick of playing in prime time, and he wants to go up to the Gold Coast. That is actually a big distraction for them this week. I mean, it lifts the lid on what's happening down there, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's got, they beat Melbourne last week, but it's got very Melbourne tones about it, doesn't it? Petrarca, and,
Absolutely.
I'm sort of sick of this environment, all this misery around the place. We
both think the Hawks will win, but Will Day back in and having Mitch Lewis back in the previous week, Finn McGuinness out, this is what Hawthorn's hoping will become a top 4 team.
Absolutely. It was interesting. John Perrick did a piece earlier this week about, doing his phantom ladder and whatever looking ahead. And he has Hawthorn missing. Now, I don't. I think Hawthorn gets into the 8. And I think that Will Day, this is the sort of thing, Mitch Lewis coming back in after a long break last week. This is the sort of inclusion that starts to give them that momentum into the season, into the finals.
Yep.
No, I think Hawthorn's got more to play for and are just a better team right now than Carlton.
Absolutely. So we're both going for the Hawks. We move on to another finals contender, the Western Bulldogs, who are very shaky now. They're virtually 2 games out of the 8, giving Gold Coast have an extra game up their sleeve. And they play Essendon, who have now got 10 players who are out for the season, which is not a good position to be in. They'll get Nate Caddy back, which is a positive, but you'd think the Western Bulldogs just go bang, bang, bang.
Unless all of the Western Bulldogs look at it and wave the white flag saying, well, our season's done, so we're just going to pack it up.
Yes.
No, they win this game easily. And particularly when you look at those injuries for Essendon, and as you say, for them to get in, they've got to win and win heavily, and Essendon has to play. Gold Coast has Essendon in that last game.
Exactly.
Or in the second last game for them.
Yeah. If they still have a team.
If they still have a team. So, you would think that Gold Coast was that. I think that the 8's set now. And
you don't think the Bulldogs will make the 8?
No.
No, I don't think they will either, just by looking at it.
Why'd you say it with such surprise then?
No, it was just, I hadn't heard that come out of your voice or come out of your mouth. The Bulldogs, they smash teams. This could get very ugly for Essendon.
Oh, they will be obliterated.
Yeah.
And this is the game that Bulldogs win because it's not only because it's Essendon, but it's not a top 8 team. You know, we know they're terrible record against the top 8, even though they're competitive in them all.
And their defence is ordinary. So another Friday night blockbuster. That's Hawthorn,
unfortunately involving Essendon.
And the two of them, as Jake Noel wrote this week, are going to play against each other on a Thursday night in the final round, which will be kind of hilarious, really. Anyway, GWS Sydney, this is actually a good game. It's a double-header. It's Friday nights where we'll switch to, as football lovers, at NG Stadium to see whether Sydney can keep their charge going to try to make it difficult for teams who are in the 8. Do you think they can beat the Giants?
They certainly can, because they've now got they are now hurting from the injuries they had in that first part of the year that they just didn't. You know, we talk about banking wins. They just didn't get any at the start of the year.
Yeah,
they are playing footy that deserves to be. That is as good as anyone or most sides in the top 8.
Yeah.
But again, one side's got more to play for. GWS is also they're surging. They're looking at top 4 now, and
they're
entrenching themselves in there. You know, I fancied them at the start of the year, and they're now getting that momentum to them. Big query with them, though, isn't what they're doing now, and even if they get into the top 4, it's what they do once they after the way they choked at the end of last year.
That's true. They got Hogan, Kelly, Taylor back. Sam Taylor's a big in. I was speaking to someone from the Giants last week who said that Adam Kingsley, even after they lost to Port Adelaide, just kept that message. It's all about September. It's all about September. They're a confident group that, and we're leaping way too far ahead, but they have a lot of redemption in store if they could actually make something of the final series given their deplorable effort last year.
Well, even they will not be comfortable if they're 5 goals up at three-quarter time in a final because they know what happened last year. Yep. And more importantly, their opponents will know what happened last year.
Yep.
And so they need to win and they need to get there first, obviously, and particularly into the top 4. And then the real questions will be put to them.
Yeah, they'll beat. I'm tipping the Giants. I assume you are.
Yeah,
they're the Collingwood of the 70s, really.
Yeah.
Gold Coast, Brisbane Lions. What do they call this one? The Q Clash. It's at People First on a Saturday afternoon.
Which one's People? Oh no, well it's not the Gabba, so it's yeah.
People First is Carrara. Actually, I was thinking about Charlie Curnow going to the Gold Coast. There's been a few. Brett Ratton lost his job when he lost to the Gold Coast, and Robert Walls when he was at Carlton lost his job when the Bears beat Carlton at Princess Park when they were operating out of Carrara.
What are you trying to say that?
I don't know. Gold Coast
is one of these is going to lose their
I'm
job.
just thinking that Carrara's just got a hold over the Blues.
Yeah,
it's a bad place. Anyway, Gold Coast, Brisbane Lions. This is an actual ripper, and
it is a good
big game for the Gold Coast Suns after last week's deplorable first half where they were beaten up by Adelaide. Who are you tipping?
I'm tipping Brisbane.
Gutless.
On the basis. You loved your joke, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I had a look to everyone.
Yeah.
I waved the flag.
All 2 people.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to pick Gold Coast to beat the team?
Certainly not someone with a one-shot lead. Yeah. No, that's true.
They beat them up every time they play them. And whether it's home or away, Brisbane's not concerned by playing them there. And Gold Coast, it was such a Gold Coast thing to do, what they did in Adelaide. Come off this win that was rousing and the best in our history, and not kick a goal until halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, I agree. Remember all those wins they'd have at the MCG? We've made it. And, then the next week they get absolutely pantsed.
So it would be very Gold Coast to turn around and win this, but I just don't see it against Brisbane and
desperate for a top
they
4.
just seem to have a mental hold on them.
They get Zach Bailey back, which is a big in. And the Gold Coast hope to get Collins and Weller, but I'm interested. Dan Rioli's out, so that's a massive
big
loss.
Out.
Yeah.
He will get back, I'm told, probably for the last 2 games that they'll play. It's not a big injury, but it's
disruption,
damaging one for them.
Yeah, when you're fighting for the 8. I think the Brisbane Lions will win, but I think this will be a really close game.
As an aside, can I just mention one of the great nicknames I've come across in football?
Yep.
John Noble moved up to Gold Coast, and I think it might have been the game where they wore the pink outfit.
Yep.
His nickname at the club now, Prawn.
That's great. Wouldn't you love to be called Prawn?
No. The other one I heard was Zach Crawley, the English cricketer. His teammates call him Creepy. Creepy Crawley.
That's good. Well, the best cricket nickname's Afghanistan for the Forgotten War. Don't you?
Yeah.
That was Mark, wasn't it?
We're online all the time. Just search Age Real Footy on Facebook or Twitter.
This is like rivalry round. These are all these non-Victorian games.
Oh,
Fremantle, West Coast, which is a derby.
Oh, yeah. Non-event, to be honest.
Fremantle, I'm tipping the Dockers, and I assume you are as well.
No, okay. How much by?
I reckon 10 goals. Hayden Young will be back playing full-time. How good's he? He was sub last week. Matt Johnson's going to go out of the team. West Coast, I didn't even bother looking up who were the ins and outs, but Reed's their
doesn't
only
really
player.
matter. Richmond beating
goals.
them. Richmond beat them last week.
Yeah,
and I mean, no disrespect to Richmond, but it's the measure of how badly West Coast is going that
So disappointing.
you know, and Fremantle's coming off a great win. You know, coming from behind last quarter, MCG against Collingwood, that was huge. So, no, they win by minimum 10, I'd say 12 to 15 goals.
Has there been a worse club than West Coast so soon after a premiership for the last
the
3
free
years?
fall.
It's hard to think of one. It's because they've been an absolute blight on the competition for the last 3 years, really. For such a powerful club that we both grew up thinking was, always going to be thereabouts.
Well, the surprising thing is that their dippers lasted as long. You sort of think they're the club that
they were a
would do
yo-yo
like
club, weren't they?
Yeah, go down, stock up with some draft picks, come back up again.
Yep.
But they just mismanaged that whole period of older blokes.
Correct. So the Dockers for both of us.
Yeah.
Now we go to North Melbourne v Geelong, which is hardly a rivalry, but Geelong travelling to Marvel. I hope they have directions because they don't have to do much away from...
They're leaving Cardinia Park.
I know, it's unreal. They'll probably catch a bus down there so they don't get lost.
Wouldn't want to catch a train.
That's true. They wouldn't get home. North Melbourne, disappointing.
You can't make a case for North Melbourne in this.
The only case I could make is that Geelong are not at their best at Marvel Stadium. They're a beatable team.
You're reaching.
No, you're reaching. The Cats could also do a number on them if Jeremy Cameron decides to extend his Coleman
North's
lead.
been good.
North's been okay.
And they're competitive. They'll be competitive, you would think. I don't think they'll get blown away.
No. I mean, they're a couple of years off. Really, Geelong should have Tom Stewart, they reckon, but I wouldn't count on him playing.
This is also the problem of this, the fag end of the season when you're getting these games where teams are out, they're out, and North's known they're out for a long time. But the other thing is that Geelong's in this soft period of 5 or 6 weeks of playing lowly teams, trying not to get injured, trying to get themselves there. The only query we've raised this on the other podcast, the Real podcast.
Not the Real Footy podcast, the Real podcast.
The Real Footy podcast. And it'll only be answerable, like Judy was, it'll only be answerable in September of whether or not that actually hurts Geelong, that they've had this soft run of half a dozen games going into the finals.
I think it's good for tipsters, but not good for the Cats. So we're both going for the Cats against the Kangaroos. Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. I know what this one's called. It's the Showdown, Adelaide Oval, Saturday night, which is actually good to watch, the Showdown. Yeah. Because even though Port Adelaide have been way off the pace this year, they're still a pretty
Didn't they win the first one?
unit. Yeah, they did. But they've lost Jason Horne-Francis and Connor Rosie's a chance to play, but who knows? And Adelaide, as they showed last week, are in pretty destructive form with their 3 tools up forward and their midfield doing a reasonable job.
They lost Hinge, didn't they?
Hinge might be back.
Yeah.
He might play.
He was subbed out. Okay, yeah. Because I think he's sort of one of those understatedly important players to them because of his pace. They don't have a lot of midfield pace, and they sort of he's one that's got it, and they get it from their flankers and the high half forwards. But
he's a clever kick too. Brodie Smith can come in if he's out, so it's not a bad replacement. I know he's a bit at the end of his career, but he's still a reasonable player.
But with the Hornet out, you like her?
Yeah, I like the Hornet. Yeah.
You can't really think the Port will do.
No.
Other than the fact that these games can create their own pressures and upsets. Regardless of ladder position, it creates a different environment. But you'd be stretching to think that it'll happen this week.
Adelaide should win this if they're fair income, and they're a top 4 team, which we know they are. So we're both tipping Adelaide, but if you're
pretty easily 4 goals
playing Adelaide the following week, you'd hope they beat the living suitcases out of each other, wouldn't you? We go to the MCG on Sunday. This will be a nice leisurely stroll to the MCG for a non-blockbuster, a blockbuster. Richmond versus Collingwood.
Well, Collingwood would be glad to be back at the MCG after. Oh yeah, they were there last week.
Yeah, Collingwood always, they know their way, but they've got no Jeremy Howe, no Dan Houston, now Bo McCreary. And Bobby Hill probably comes through the VFL, whereas Richmond have now got Noah Bolter back for the rest of the year, which is good for him. And Seth Campbell's possibly out he is out because he was concussed last week.
Yeah.
Collingwood's they've lost 2 by a total of 7 points. So you wouldn't say it's a dip, but they've lost their past 2, which is unusual.
No, but they've lost them with both. It coincided with that period where we wrote about at the start that they were entering a danger period because of they lost them in defence.
Yep.
They were short in defence. So first of all having Frampton out, and then you're playing a team with 3 tools, and then you're losing Howe.
Yep.
And last week, Howe plays last week, they win the game.
I agree with that.
I mean, it was a 1-kick game, and he's just so smart in the back line. In sort of
they had to replace
them
with Charlie Dean, which no disrespect to Charlie Dean, he's not Jeremy Howe.
No. There's a chance Frampton comes in and replaces him this week.
Yeah, there is a chance.
I think it's probably likely. The McCreary one's interesting. Came back, big impact. What was it, 15 tackles or something?
Most tackles inside 50 ever or something. Yeah.
And did his hammy again.
Yep.
He'd just been out with a hammy.
Yep.
So that's...
Yeah, write a letter
they've
to
done
the
but they've done a hell of a lot. Jared Wade, they've done a hell of a lot right in the fitness space. But that's a concern for him. But yeah, you'd be pressed to think that Richmond will knock him over.
Yeah, you're not brave enough to tip Richmond anyway.
No, it's not about bravery. It's a matter of logic and smarts.
No. Collingwood easily. Both of us think that. St Kilda versus Melbourne, Marvel Stadium Sunday. Saints are a better team at the moment.
Yeah, they are.
But
I think Melbourne will win.
Same.
Right.
But I didn't do that.
I didn't see your tips when I did mine.
I didn't see yours. But
I'll go back and say
St Kilda, probably what I mean is St Kilda are the better. They've got sort of more talent on the park, but they're not necessarily a team that's likely to beat Melbourne if Melbourne can play at their best.
Yeah. St Kilda's been competitive and more competitive than Melbourne, but...
The only thing I'd say, and I'm just thinking about this now, Marvel Stadium, Melbourne's record, I'm not sure what it is recently, but they are always a team that struggled at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah.
Whereas St Kilda, it's a pretty happy hunting ground.
Happy hunting ground.
Yeah, don't you love that cliche?
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard that one. Yeah. The danger is Ross chokes Melbourne up.
Yep.
And the Demons do have trouble scoring. The most interesting thing in this game isn't who wins. It's the battle between Pickett and Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera.
That's true.
Two of them are watchable players in each team. Melbourne, Pickett was just brilliant to watch last week.
He was
kicked their score basically, and Wanganeen-Milera was outstanding in a losing team.
Yeah, he was Alan Border. He was just he was less grumpy. He's a good player, and Geelong didn't find out a way to stop him, as Hawthorn had said the same thing, hadn't they, about him a week or a couple of weeks earlier.
We tried everything and couldn't do it.
So he's
I'm almost talking myself into St Kilda now.
I'm going to watch which way you go. Maybe check the
cynical
list before it goes in.
Tipping.
So who are you tipping? Because you have to lock it in now, Michael Gleeson.
Well, I'll lock it in for the podcast, but I don't have to lock it in for the paper. I've got another hour.
I know, but it'll be a bit embarrassing, a bit awkward.
Right now, I have said Melbourne.
Right.
But I am open to change.
That is one of the... I apologise for Michael's performance there. That's unusual for this podcast. I'm tipping Melbourne and I'm going to stick with them unless I change. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. You can see the rest of the experts' tips at theage.com.au/AFL. Make sure to subscribe, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send an email to realfootypod@theage.com.au. We'd love to hear from you. The podcast will return on Monday, the Real Footy podcast. Thanks for listening, and may your team win.